Greetings to the 12 tribes of Yasharahla that are scattered to the four corners of the world. I am back with another video. I'm actually going to remake this video. I made this video a few weeks ago, and I just decided because I didn't get all the components in there like I wanted to. It was kind of rushed. So I didn't post it and I decided to remake it. I know I've been away for a while. I do have um, many videos, and as the Most High permits, I will go ahead and try to get them out. Okay, so today's video, you all, is going to be identifying Esau Edom. We're going to identify Esau Edom in today's video, and then um in our video on, well, in the next video, Most High permits, in the next video I would like to identify um Yasharahla, identify the seed of Jacob. Okay, and so let's go ahead and get started because this video already seems as if it's going to be quite lengthy. And so I don't want to delay our time any longer. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. Okay, so we're going to start off with Genesis. Um, primarily Genesis 4. You all know I do discuss Genesis 4 and Genesis 5 a lot. Um, that discusses the genealogy between the seeds. And so we're going to just start at Genesis 3, where everything initially took place, and then um we'll move around. Okay. All right, this is the Blue Letter Bible. Let's see. Okay, so I didn't realize I already had this highlighted. Okay, so Genesis 3 and 13. This is when, um, the transgression had taken place and everyone was receiving their judgment. But I want to place emphasis on what was said because remember, I told you all, and many people are saying this now at this point, that there was more than just a mere eating of an apple in disobedience that had taken place. Okay. Genesis 13 and 13. Okay. Um, the Most High asked woman, what is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. But remember, I told you all that that word can mean deceive, but that word in the instance that she said it meant seduced. So we're going to go, okay, the woman said, okay, so she said beguiled. So we're going to, is the Hebrew word 5377.
Strong's H 5377. Nasha. Nasha.
Nasha. So she said, he beguiled me, but this is what she said. To morally seduce. She was seduced. Okay. And then I mean she was deceived because she didn't know what she was doing. She hadn't even been touched at that point, even by her own husband. So she was seduced, and she said, and I did eat. The word for eat is the Hebrew word 398.
Strong's H 398. Achel. Achel.
Okay. And we're just going to go down and see. So yes, it can mean to consume, to devour, to dine, to eat, to feed. But in this instance, to lay. So when she answered the Most High, she said, the serpent seduced me, and I did lay. I did lay with him. And okay, I just wanted to clarify that. That's why she turned around, and let's go into what is said to her. So the enemy gets a curse, and then and what does the Most High say in Genesis 3:15? I will put enmity between the seed of the woman and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So this is the prophecy of Ahayasha, of the Savior right here. He's saying, I'm going to send a seed through this woman that's going to come and crush your head. You're going to bruise his heel, but he's going to crush your head. So why would the Most High, why would eating of an apple get a prophecy of two seeds being born in the earth? Then the very next verse, he turns to Eve and says, I am going to greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow, you're going to bring forth children. And then he goes on to say, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he's going to rule over you. So that's showing that she had a desire for someone or something outside of her husband. But he tells her, your desire going forward, your desire is going to be for your husband, and he is going to rule over you. All right. So just to, clarify that. So then when we get to Genesis 4, now we have Cain being born in Genesis 4, and we have well we excuse me, we have Cain and Abel being born. So now we have two seeds that are born. One, Cain is a tiller of the ground. Abel is a keeper of sheep. These are the two bloodlines. One is perpetually going to serve the older brother, and he is going to till the ground. which was cursed. The ground was cursed in Genesis 3, and it was his job to till, while the other brother was given the priesthood. All right, but I just want to focus on Cain's after Cain slew his brother and he was exiled. He did not want to go out because he said, I'm gonna be killed. My punishment is greater than I can bear. I'm gonna go out here and I'm going to be killed. And the Most High, he put a mark upon him and said, lest anyone finding Cain should kill him. When people, this mark that was put on Cain, when people saw him, people would know who he was and know that he was off limits or untouchable because of this mark that was placed upon him. And so when we look at the word mark, it's actually the Hebrew word 226.
Strong's H 226. Oath. Oath.
Oath. All right. Just like, swearing an oath. And then the crazy part about it is that one of the definitions actually means omen. So this mark that was placed upon Cain was a sign, a signal, a distinguishing mark that distinguished him from all the rest, a banner. Like, hey, you can't miss it. You see it coming. You know who it is. It was also a miraculous sign, an omen, and a warning. Okay, this is and it was evidence, all right, of who he was. So what was this mark? What was this omen? This prophetic significance. That's what the definition here for omen is, for a prophetic significance. What was this omen that was placed upon Cain that distinguished him from the rest of the world? All right. I'm going to take a look at my notes for a second. Okay, so I've mentioned that Cain, in the past, on previous videos, I've mentioned my stance, and some people don't agree with it, but my stance that Cain was the descendant of Baal or Satan or the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, or the many names that he have. Cain was the son of the serpent. Okay, and so this was telling us that Genesis 4 was telling us that there was going to be a seed, an original seed, the son from the seed of Ahayasha, the seed of the creator himself, because Adam was a son of Ahayasha. Adam was created by Ahayasha himself with his DNA in his image and in his likeness, and Ahayasha blew into him, blew his breath or the ruach into him, and he became a living being. He was created in heaven as a spirit, and then he had a body shaped and formed, for him. Okay, and then and he had the ruach blown into him, and he became a living being. Okay. And so the same way that Adam was the Most High Ahaya's son, Cain was the enemy's son. All right, the adversary. Let's take a look at this name here. Samael. If we go on the Church of Satan's website, you will see this name on there as well, along with the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. This name, it says here, in Jewish folklore and mystical tradition, is the true name of Satan. This is Encyclopedia Britannica. But let's just go down and see a little about him. Okay, so it's saying I'll just go ahead and read the first paragraph. According to tradition, he is the king of all, Demons, the angel of death, the husband of the demonic, Lilith, and the arch enemy of Michael the archangel and of Yasharahla. He is associated with Mars, the left side, the north, and Tuesday. His name is not to be spoken aloud in case it draws his attention. And thus he's referred to by vocalizing only the first two letters of his name. All right. But I want to go down here to the second paragraph, and where it says these are some of the negative acts that ancient Jewish history attributes to him, including he planted the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. And he did do that, but remember, okay, because first of all, the Most High would never tempt. He'd never tempt us, so he would not plant anything and tell us, okay, stay away from that. But the tree of knowledge of good and evil was planted by the adversary to tempt, Adam and Eve. However, that's not what caused, that's not the tree the fruit of the tree that she ate from that caused her to, give birth or whatnot. All right. But let's go down here. I'm just gonna highlight it here. He, Samael, is attributed to impregnating Eve with Cain. And I just happened to, I said what I said based on my own thoughts and just studying, in the spirit, giving me these, I guess, words of knowledge or insight. But here it is in black and white. He's the one attributed with impregnating Eve with Cain, attempting to dissuade Abraham from sacrificing Isaac, causing the death to Sarah by informing her of Abraham's intent to sacrifice Isaac, attempting to kill Jacob while he was still in the womb, arguing with the Most High as a prosecutor, against Yasharahla. And look at this, you all. He's the one attributed with hiding in the golden calf. So when, people are worshiping that golden calf, Molech, that's who is inside. Just like he's the one inside of that, what, Dome of the Rock, or that cobblestone. All right. So, remember in Genesis 6, now all the fallen had taken on human wives and was having children with them. All right. What do these children look like? This is Enoch, the book of Enoch, chapters 106. And I'm gonna maybe read the first few sentences and then I'm going to skip around. But 106 verse 1, it says, and after some days, my son Methuselah took for his son Lamech a wife, and she became pregnant by him and bore a son. And his body was white like snow and red like the flower of a rose, and the hair of his head was white like wool, and his eyes were beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, he made the whole house bright like the sun, so that the whole house was exceptionally bright. And when he was taken from the hand of the midwife, he opened his mouth and spoke to Ahayasha of righteousness. And his father Lamech was afraid of him and fled and went to his father Methuselah. And he said to him, I have begotten a strange son. He is not like a man, but he is like the children of heaven, of a different type, and not, I'm sorry, he is not like a man, but he is like the children of the angels of heaven, of a different type and not like us. And his eyes are like the rays of the sun, and his face is glorious. So I'm going to stop right there, verse 5. When Lamech sees his son, he literally is afraid and he flees. He runs out of the birthing room. And he runs to his father Methuselah, like, I don't know what's going on. This baby don't look nothing like me. Nothing. He says us. He's a different type. He's not like us. He looks like he is one of the children of the angels of heaven. All right, so Methuselah goes and seeks Noah. I'm sorry, he goes and seeks Enoch, and he tells Enoch the story, and Enoch tells him, yes. He says, is this our son? Is this our blood? Or has something strange been done in the earth? And Enoch answered him and said, the Most High will do new things in the earth. And yes, I've already seen a vision and made it known to you, for in the generation of my father Jared, some from the height of heaven transgress the word of the Most High, departing from the covenant of heaven, and behold, they commit sin and transgress the law. They've been promiscuous with women, and they committed sin with them and married some of them and begotten children by them. And there will be a great destruction over the whole earth. There will be a deluge, and there will be a great destruction for 1 year. But this child who's been born of you will be left on the earth. He and his 3 sons will be saved with him. When all the men who are on the earth die, he and his sons will be saved. So he's telling him, yes, this is your son. He's going save the world, and he actually tells him to, okay, he actually tells him, let's go to 107:2. Now, my son, go make known to your son Lamech that this child who's been born to him is truly his son, and this is no lie. And he also tells them to name him Noah. Okay, so Noah came out looking like this. Noah came out with rosy white skin, because let's see how he was described. Body white as snow and red like the flower of a rose, and the hair of his head white like wool, and beautiful eyes. Noah was albino. He was the first albino. White skin all over, yet rosy. White hair, beautiful, bright eyes. Okay. And um, and then we also get the description of what the children of the fallen look like. And we'll go more into that a little later. Okay. So right now, I want to talk about Esau, because we went from Cain and Abel to the flood to Esau and Jacob. And I've told you all before that birth of Esau and Jacob, that was the Most High fulfilling the prophecy of the two seeds. So you had a set of twins in the womb that came out, one with melanin or black skin, and one with white skin. So you had basically a black male baby and a white male baby being born at the same time. And that is the battle of the two seas that is still going on in the earth to this day. The hatred, the enmity between the two races that was prophesied, thousands of years ago. All right. So let me take a look at my notes. All right. I want to focus on too. I just want to go back to, by the time we got to Genesis 6, all the fallen had followed they had followed the example that had taken place in the garden, and they all had taken on, human wives. Why? Because the enemy, remember, he wanted to rule. He wanted to be a Lord, a God. He wanted to be a father. He was an angel. He wasn't created in the same way that that Adam was. But he wanted to be, he wanted to rule. He wanted to rule over people, and he wanted to be a creator or have his own creation. And he knew, see, Eve was still green. She did not, she was still young. She was young. She didn't have the head knowledge that the enemy had. And he knew that she was carrying something powerful, that she had a womb. She had a portal or a matrix that would allow him to bring his own seed into this earth. And she had something he needed, and she convinced him. He convinced her, he seduced her, and she didn't know what she was doing, but she was still, I guess, intrigued by what he told her. All right. So we know that white skin is actually a melanin deficiency or an inability to produce melanin. That is what Cain was, that was his mark. That was his mark. Um, and that's why anyone that laid eyes upon him would know who he was, because the entire world at that time was melanin, had black or brown skin. All right. And that's why the children of the angels, um, they had a distinct look. Okay. And then but we're going to go more into genealogy now by going to Genesis 36, discussing Esau and his genealogy. Before we go there too, remember that Cain, although the seed of Cain perished during the flood, Noah's wife was Naamah. Naamah was Cain's uh, granddaughter, the daughter of Zillah and Lamech. And so therefore, the entire earth was a higher seed through Noah. So you have Noah, who was an albino, and I guess you can say that Naamah, would have been mixed, because Naamah's father, Naamah's father was a descendant of Cain, but then Zillah was a daughter of Adam. So she would have had, like a white father and a black mother. And remember, this is before the law was given about, the mixing of the seeds. And then we know also that we had to mix with one another back then because of that's how, because the Most High created one man and one woman from that man. And so that's just how we started you know procreating. But yeah, and that's when the Most High, well, no, he did not at that time give us the commandment not to mix. But that's where it came from. Now you're seeing why he forbid us to mix with the other nations, because most of the other nations had mixed themselves with the fallen angels. Okay. So Genesis 36, Esau marries two Hittite women, and they were the descendants of Canaan. And remember, Canaan was cursed. What was Canaan cursed with? Canaan was cursed with leprosy. The Canaanites were a leprous people. All right. What I had a picture. Where's my picture? I have a picture of leprosy, what we would call leprosy back then. So what we would call leprosy back then is called vitiligo today. This is what we knew as leprosy. This, if you saw this, you knew that a person was considered unclean back in biblical times. And depending on the severity of the leprosy, sometimes the person can have sores, scabs, they can, have patches bleeding here or there. But the leprosy was a mixture of white skin and melanated skin. Okay. And we're going to read, let's go to Leviticus 13 and 13. These are the laws for leprosy, but Leviticus 13:13 says the priest is to examine them. So this is when you take someone to the priest, if they had leprosy and they're supposed to sit outside the camp. It said the priest is to examine them, and if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has all turned white, they are clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. All right. So this is what they're saying. Let's look at this image again. If this person, if their skin has turned white all over, they still have leprosy, or they're still leprous, but they are clean. They're a clean leper. They don't have to be set outside of the camp. Only if they're discolored like this, or they have sores, do they have to be set outside of the camp. But if their skin is white all over, consider them clean. Okay. So we were told that we've always been told that the curse of Ham was black, melanated skin, like Ham was cursed with black melanated skin. But the curse has always been white skin with no melanin, starting with Cain. And then remember when the Most High was speaking to Moses from the burning bush, and Moses' hand became leprous. He told Moses, remember that one of the definitions for the sign that Cain got was going to be a miraculous sign, number 4. A miraculous sign. First, a distinguishing mark is going to distinguish him from the rest. It's going to be a banner. You're going to see him coming. You're going to know who he is. It's going to be a sign of remembrance. Remember that you were born in iniquity, and that's a sign of remembrance, and it's going to be a miraculous sign. But in addition, it's going to be an omen, which is like a prophetic curse upon Cain, and also a warning for others. But the miraculous sign, remember, the Most High told Moses, put his hand in his tunic. And when Moses pulled it out, it was white as snow. And then when Miriam was talking about Moses with Aaron, and Ahayasha chastened her and she was turned white as snow for speaking against Moses. And Moses, had to intercede on her behalf. And then remember, Gehazi, the assistant to Elisha, when the king came, the leprous king came to be healed, and he was told to go dip 7 times in the Jordan, he tried to repay the prophet with linens uh and money, and it was refused, and he was told, go your way. And then Gehazi went behind him and stopped him and said, oh, he changed his mind. We'll take a few of those linen outfits, and we'll take, some of the silver or whatever. And then the scripture says, and when he came back and he was asked where had he been, he told him nowhere. And he said, you don't think I saw what you did? And just for that curse of leprosy that was upon him is now upon you. And he was turned white as snow. Okay. So now we're going to go to Genesis 36. Oh, that discusses Esau. Genesis 36. We know that the interesting part about Genesis is that initially it was about Cain and Abel, then it was about Esau and Jacob. But what's interesting is that in Genesis 36, we also go into the genealogy of Seir, the father of the Horites. Why? Because Esau and his family mixed with the Neanderthals, the Horites. Let's go ahead and read the definition of Horites before we get into that. This is Bible study tools. Bible study tools. Let's see if I can make this larger. All right. So Horite denoted the inhabitants of Mount Seir before its occupation by the Edomites in Deuteronomy 2 and 12. Seir is accordingly called Horite in Genesis 36 and 20 and 30, where a list of his descendants is given, who afterward mixed with the invading Edomites. Esau himself married the daughter of the Horite chieftain Anah in Genesis 36 and 25. And see Genesis 36 and 2, where Hivite must be corrected into Horite. The Horites in their Mount Seir were among the nations defeated by the army of Chedorlaomer in the age of Abraham, Genesis 14 and 6. The Hebrew Horitic, however, is the car of the Egyptian inscriptions and name given to the whole of the southern Palestine and Edom, as well as the adjacent sea. In accordance with this, we find the Old Testament also traces the existence of the Horites into other parts of the country besides Seir. In Genesis 34 and 2 and Joshua 9 and 7. The Septuagint more correctly reads Horite instead of Hivite for the inhabitants of Shechem and Gibeon. And Caleb is said to be the son of Hur, the firstborn of Ephratah or Bethlehem. In First Chronicles 2:50 and 4:4. Hor or Horite has sometimes been explained to mean cave dweller. It more probably, however, denotes the white race. The Horites were Semites and consequently distinguished in Deuteronomy 2:12 from the tall race of Rephaim. Okay, so this is Bible study tools, and this says that the Horites have been explained to mean cave dwellers and probably denotes to the it more probably, however, denotes to the white race. Now, this was from the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia in the year 1915. All right. So we're going to get into the genealogy of Esau and how he and his family mixed with the Horites. But first, let's take a look at this. Let's make sure I'm not missing anything.
Around 100,000 years ago, dates vary, ancient humans moved out of Africa and into the Middle East and Europe. But another group of hominids.
If you have a child, 12 or older, and you like for them to get into the best university possible, I have something very
Of hominids called the Neanderthal were already there. They wanted to be where the people were. And now we're forever part of their world, so to speak. We sexed them up. Today, we live with a mix of the DNA of every one of our ancestors. Luckily for us, both the human and Neanderthal genome have been sequenced. This means we can look at the full breadth of our DNAs and find places where things match up. For many of us, that includes a few hundred Neanderthal bits as well. For example, I have 301 Neanderthal markers in my genome. They say that's more than most, which sounds great. So many of us have a little genetics from the Valley of Neander, which plants a question in a lot of people's minds. Did putting some Neander cream in our Homo sapien coffee make things better or worse? In 2016.
Okay, and I'll put the full video for you all to take a look at later. Let's take a look at this one.
Really, this is going to sound silly, but this is really, really important cutting edge genetics. One of the areas I'm really lucky I'm blessed to work in three distinct areas of biology: immunology, genetics, and reproduction. And on the genetics side, I get to go to conferences and hear about advances in genetics in all species. And I was just at one a couple of weeks ago down at the Cold Spring Harbor Lab in Long Island, and I learned a bit about what's being known about the genome of Neanderthals, the genetic makeup of Neanderthals. That the genome sequencers, led by Svante Pabo, who works in Germany, has taken tiny little fragments of Neanderthal bones, isolated DNA, and determined the genome of the Neanderthal, and used that information to determine, using genetic methods, how long ago Neanderthals and humans were a single species, where the common ancestor was. And they've also been able to compare human genomes and ask the question of whether there's any evidence of Neanderthal genes in the human genome. And they found that there is. And the amount is quite significant, upwards of 5 to 7%. Neanderthals used to live in the Neander Valley. It's, we could have called it the Cayuga Lake Basin, but that's where they lived. And out of Africa came the modern humans, and the word the geneticist uses, admixed. They admixed with the Neanderthals. And they all used to live in caves in those days like this. Came out of Africa, had mixed with the Neanderthals. This was Neanderthal territory. There was another group of Neanderthal-like creatures called the Denisovans. They lived up here in Siberia, and they have their genome has been sequenced. They were distinct from the Neanderthals. And so you can find in people of European and Asian ancestry evidence of about 7%, 5 to 10% of your genome is common with that of Neanderthals. We've been separated from them for 30,000 years or so. And in some of the tribes in Papua New Guinea and those islands out there, there's evidence for a different kind of genome, which is probably the Denisovan genome. And they might have 7% Neanderthal and 5% Denisovan. So they might be 12 or 15% different from us. And in fact, the Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them. No evidence of admixture. So they're the real pure humans. Homo sapiens. Really, really interesting, and it gives you a lot to think about.
Okay. Once again, these everything will be linked below. So all right, so now I'm going to, that's what I meant to go to Genesis 36. So we're going to take a look at a few different things here. So what I write in Genesis 36 discusses Esau dwelling in Mount Seir. The interesting part about Genesis is, okay, I already said that the first part is Cain and Abel's bloodline, and then the rest is Esau and Jacob. But Genesis 36 goes into the genealogy of Mount Seir, the Horite, because his descendants admixed with Esau. Okay, Genesis 36, verses 6 through 9 is what I have. All right, so before I go there, I'm going to go right here. Genesis 36 and 2. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan. So he had two Canaanite wives, Ada and the daughter of Ada, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Alibama, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zebion the Hivite, which Hivite needs to be Horite. Okay. We just learned that in the Bible study tools that we read, and we're going to confirm that from the book of Jasher. And so then also Ada bare to Esau Eliphaz. Okay, so Ada, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, gave Esau a son, Eliphaz. And so that's important because Esau took his children, he took his wives, his sons and daughters, and all the persons of his house, his cattle and his beasts, and all his substance, which he got in the land of Canaan, and he went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob, for their riches were more than than that they might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Esau is Edom. Edom is the father of the Roman Empire. So now we go into the generations of Esau in Mount Seir. But the most important part is Eliphaz. Eliphaz took Timnah as a concubine, and Eliphaz took Timnah as a concubine, and oh, here's another one too. So let's see. In Genesis 19, these are the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these are their dukes. But we see that these are the sons of Alibama, Esau's wife, and so this was Duke Jewish, Duke Jalam, Duke Korah, and these were the dukes that came from Alibama, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. And so remember, she was a Horite. And then Timnah, it says these are the sons of Seir the Horite. And so it gives the name of his sons. And Seir the Horite, which is the, the Neanderthal, the king of the Neanderthals. So Esau's wife was, her father was Anah. All right, so she was the granddaughter of Seir the Horite. This is who her father was, and her brother, and Zebion. But then we know that there was Lotan here, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. Timnah became a concubine for Eliphaz, and she is the mother of Amalek, the continuous enemies of Yasharahla. All right. And so I'm just going to take the time to also read, this is the book of Jasher, chapter 30. Chapter 30, and I'm going to start reading at verse 23 actually. All right, so it says when Jehudah died, that's Esau's, I think that was his first wife. When Jehudah died, Esau rose up and went to Seir to hunt in the field as usual. And Esau dwelt in the land of Seir for a long time. In the 6th year, Esau took a wife, in addition to his other wives, Alibama, the daughter of Zebion, the Hivite. And Esau brought her to the land of Canaan. And Alibama conceived, and she bore Esau 3 sons. Okay, and so then this confirms the story that Esau was dwelling in Canaan, but he began to quarrel with the inhabitants of the land because Esau's goods were too abundant for him to remain in the land of Canaan in his father's house. And so when Esau saw that his quarreling had increased, he rose up with his wives and his sons and his daughters and all that belonged to him and his cattle, and he possessed all of his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and he went away from the inhabitants of the land to the land of Seir. Esau and all belonged to him dwelt in the land of Seir. But from time to time, Esau would go and see his father and mother in Canaan. Esau intermarried with the Horites, and he gave his daughters to their sons, to the sons of Seir the Horite, and he gave his elder daughter Marzith to Anah, his son, the son of Zebion, his wife's brother. He gave Pudith to Azar, the son of Bilhan the Horite. And Esau dwelt in the mountain, he and his children, and they were fruitful and they multiplied. So Esau was given the same. Esau was given Mount Seir as an inheritance, and he was told to do the same thing that Yasharahla was told to do: drive the fallen, those all those ites, drive those tribes out of the land, all the descendants, Jebusites, Hittites, you know, drive them out. But Esau didn't drive them out. He went and he married one of their daughters. Then he gave his two daughters to their brothers, and then he gave one of their sisters to his son. And he just mixed and mingled with them, or what we call what they say, admixed. He admixed. And in the book of Jasher, the book of Gad the seer says, the Most High says that Esau mixed his holy seed with the seed of the Gentiles. Matter of fact, Gad the seer focuses on 4 mixtures that took place with Esau Edom, but we know after those 4 mixtures, he continued to mix himself, because Esau is a chameleon and he likes to hide himself in the other races or the other tribes. All right, I also want to focus on when we learn about these in Genesis 36, as we're learning about these people, it says that these are the dukes that came from the Horites, and even Esau's wife, their children were called dukes. And then Eliphaz and Timnah, and she was Neanderthal royalty because she was the daughter of Seir, but she became a duke through, or duchess, through Esau's family. And so this, once again, is the Bible showing us like who are these kings and lords and dukes who are known in the earth as kings and lords and dukes. And this right here, it says in Genesis 36 and 31, these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom. So these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there reigned any king over the children of Yasharahla. So these are the kings and the dukes and the lords that were reigning in Edom before they came to reign over Yasharahla. So the Most High is identifying a group of people. Who do we know that are still known today as kings in the earth and dukes in the earth, and that are reigning over the children of the Most High? Let's see. Okay. Let's talk about the mixtures for a moment. So we know that Esau mixed himself with the Horites, with the inhabitants of Seir. That's one mixture. Then he had two Hittite wives. So he mixed, and they were descendants of Canaan. So he mixed himself with the Canaanites, the leprous Canaanites. Excuse me. That's his second mixture. And then when he heard his parents discussing how they disapproved of his wives and forbidding Jacob to marry anyone in his own people, he still couldn't marry a Yasharahla. He went and married a descendant of Ishmael, one of Ishmael's daughters. So that was the third mixture. And then right here in the book of Jasher, chapter 90, we see that back in Jasher 60, Zepho, which is Eliphaz and a descendant of like Eliphaz and Timnah, he became like king over Chittim, which is Japheth. And then but this was a fight between Chittim and Edom in chapter 90. And it says here in verse 8 that the children of Chittim ruled over Edom. Edom became under the hand of the children of Chittim and became one. They became one kingdom from that day. And from that time, they could no more lift up their heads, and their kingdom became one with the children of Kittim or Chittim. So this is also showing where Edom had mixed himself with Japheth, and they became one as well. I just want to read this just because I thought it was funny when I was looking up Japheth, and we know all of the nations that we know as the Roman nations are Roman Britain nations are the area of Japheth or the descendants of Japheth. But it says right here, it said the point of the blessing of Japheth seems to be that Japheth, which is a Greek descendant people, and Shem, which are the Yasharahlites, will rule jointly over Canaan, which is Palestine. And I'm like, please give me the chapter and the verse of where that is, saying that now Canaan was given perpetual servitude as a part of his curse, but please show me where it said that the Greeks and Shem would jointly rule over Canaan. I know it did say he would serve his brothers, but okay. So let me just look at my notes here. So now I'm going to read where we're going to read Matthew 23. It says, and then Ahayasha spake to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. What does that mean, you all? The scribes and the Pharisees. So he's warning them, or he's telling them, the scribes and the Pharisees, so your religious leaders are they're now, these current religious leaders are the ones sitting in Moses' seat. Verse 3, therefore, whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. So he's saying they're the ones over, they're the religious and political leaders in the earth right now. Just do what they say and obey them, but don't follow them because they say it and they don't do it. They don't live by it. Go down to verse 5. But all their works they do to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments. Let's take a look at that. What are the phylacteries? They make broad the phylacteries. The phylacteries are these black boxes that they wear on their head. And he said they also make broad the borders of their garments. So like their garments and their fringes, he's saying that they're doing all this to be seen. They love the uppermost rooms at the feast and the chief's seats in the synagogues and being greeted in the market and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. Who do we call rabbis today? Or who are still called rabbis today? When he said, but be not called rabbi, for one is your master, even Yashaya, and all ye are brethren. You got one master, and all of you are brethren. Call no man your father on earth, for one is your father, which is in heaven. So who also is being called father in the earth? All right. And once again, Ahayasha was pointing out, even the Bible points out about this false whore that fornicates with every nation, clothed in purple and scarlet. So the Bible is pointing out a false religion and false religious leaders, and is actually pointing out a false family that are the descendants of Esau Edom that are called dukes and lords and are reigning in the earth over the true chosen. And then we know that Revelations 2:9 says, I know the blasphemy of them that say they are the Jews and are not, but are actually the synagogue of Satan. Okay. And it's very interesting because when you look at it, the papacy signed the papal order, the Dom Diversas, and the Antiquatera, and sent those orders to the kings of Spain and Portugal. And the royal families of Great Britain also participated. All these kings, all these kings or royal nobility, then because the papal orders also said, take everything that they have as yours. We're going to reclassify them as savages in need of salvation. And so a certain people became the people, a certain family became the royal family of the world, and they say they have blood ties to David. This family funded the boats and along with supplied the boats along with funded the slave trade. Another group of people also contributed to the boats, and their families became very wealthy due to free labor, and it gave them generational wealth. And this Rome, or the Roman Catholic Church, are the ones that signed the orders and sent them out. So there was a conspiracy that took place, and three groups of people that the Most High, or the Bible, is identifying played a part. And we go even into more detail in Psalms 83, where it says the Ishmaelites, the Moabites, the Hagarenes, and the Ishmaelites, Moabites, Hagarenes, and I don't know why I can't think of, Edomites, the Edomites. Okay. And so I say that, I think I've said it before, Joseph being sold into slavery by his brothers was a foreshadowing of Yasharahla being enslaved by his brothers, because our brother Esau Edom played a part. Our brother Ishmael played a part. The Moabites, which were the descendants of Lot, played a part. And we know that Abraham took Lot in as a son. He was his brother's son, and he was his nephew, but he took him in as a son, as well as the Hagarenes are the sons that Abraham had with Keturah, his wife after Sarah. So Psalms 83 lists them all as conspirators of selling Yasharahla into slavery. And we're all just still to this day living out this Bible story as it comes to a close, because we are in those final hours. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. I pray that you all are blessed, and I pray that you did receive something from this video, that you I pray that the Most High is glorified. I pray that we all endure to the end, and that we have the strength to, just hold on in these final hours that we have. You all be blessed and have a wonderful weekend. Until the next video, Shalom.